So that's how we're going to wrap up today. It's I'll ask a few questions that we've gotten in on the Q&A, but I'll start off, Mark, with what is your vision for the future? Where do you guys go from here in your program?
Well, we just continue to make significant investment in improving surface friction. So we've got a committed fund every year that we target our surface friction. But again, that road to zero is pretty significant in terms of that's a tall order. So I think it's us working alongside all our other partners in terms of how we can make our total road environment safer, and hoping that our other partners that are looking at the vehicles and the drivers and all the other elements that go to the combined effect about improving safety across our road networks, and not just in New Zealand, this is internationally.
Yeah. One of the questions that came in, and I think it's a really good one, is one of the numbers you cited earlier was a cost-benefit ratio of 40 to 1. That was what initialized the program. That was what got everyone excited. The question is, how did you come up with that calculation at the outset? And then, you alluded to it with real in-field data having changed over 20 years. So how has it changed in the 20 years? How did you come up with it initially? Has that calculation changed? And how do you guys still to work to the idea of a cost-benefit analysis?
Yeah, so the first thing is the data is really important to be able to go back, and sometimes you have to make assumptions about how many crashes you think you've saved. So it was based on the run off the road, or the wet road run off the road crashes, and we used that in terms of an estimate across New Zealand, and then said if we could treat the surfaces where those have happened, and let's say we save a quarter of those, then you can come up with your benefit. The numbers does jump around. It could be 40, I think it dropped down to 11 when we looked at and did a bit more refinement. So it does jump around a bit, but it just shows that for every dollar you spend, there's a significant value to be gained by saving lives or saving crashes. So that's the key in terms of having really good data and doing an assessment, and then obviously getting that peer review to make sure that it does stack up.
Yeah. A question then on data. We talked a lot about a lot of factors that influence the data and friction measurement. We have a person who's asked, how did you measure the wet road component? And I guess it's really do you measure the wet road component? Do you use weather data from IoT sensors? Do you use kind of weather information from other sources across the network? How do you factor that in?
So obviously the skid resistance measurement's done in the dry, and then we're looking at wet road crashes. So every time there's a crash, the police go out and take all that information at the site at the time, and they'll record as to what the condition of the road was at the time. So when that goes into the CAS database, that's triggered as a wet road crash, and may not always be entirely accurate, but it certainly gives a good sample in terms of us then looking at. And we can also make assessments based on weather in terms of how much percentage of the road we think was wet, but that's pretty crude in terms of the variability of weather across New Zealand at any time. So really we need to use wet road crash definitions from that CAS database.
Couple of questions on performance of the road. So do you have or do you allow studded snow tires on the network?
Well, that's a very good question. Typically, I don't think we do. They may use them in the South Island. What we do is we do allow chains to be used on vehicles that are travelling in icy conditions, but that's caused us a bit of challenge this year because we did actually ban it, and then we had a whole lot of problems with people being upset that they couldn't get through the route when they thought they could drive safely. So it's quite a contentious area, but that whole area of snow and ice is a whole different subject. But it's obviously critical for us in terms of, and we use a product called calcium magnesium acetate, which is an anti-icing agent, and we try to spray on that on the road before the ice forms.
And someone also asked why you drive on the wrong side of the road, so I don't know if you care to address that.
Well, I feel outnumbered in the audience today, so I won't make any comment on
that. A question on political buy-in. You mentioned the political side is one of the stakeholders. So what kind of political buy-in has there been to the implementation of a skid policy, and how did you go about getting that buy-in?
Well, again, I think it was using that justification, writing a paper to our board to show that we think there was the level of investment. And also, I think you can't refute the crash savings. So when you start putting information like that in front of the governors and the people that are the funders, and when they've got to weigh up, because it's a challenging world when there's not enough funds to go around. But if you can show that the value you're going to get back from your dollar invested versus some other dollar maybe for some other treatment. If you can show that and show the benefit and the fact that it's linked to saving lives, it certainly gets their attention.
And then last question, again, kind of speaking to the material side of things, one of the things that you guys have been able to do is, and you alluded to this as well, is PSV was something that you guys actually went through and adapted based on what you were seeing from in-field performance. So you guys have a huge wealth of information on how your aggregates actually perform in field. So the question is, across the network, taking into account all of the various correction factors or things that you might be accounting for in measurement, different types of materials, how much of a change in friction do you tend to see on different types of materials year on year? So, are you seeing dramatic changes year on year? Are you seeing your network change rapidly if you take everything else out but the material performance?
Yeah, materials is, it's quite variable given the geological nature of our New Zealand rocks. It does vary. Even within a quarry, we've found significant difference. So in the early days, we produced a PSV chart. So for each quarry, we said, here's typically what the PSV of the aggregate is. But again, we've found we've put that on the road. What typically happens is it takes 2 years for the aggregate to polish, and then it reaches a state of equilibrium, and it just varies on summer and winter, and it fluctuates, but it generally stays consistent. But if the aggregate's not performing within the first 2 or 3 years, you'll see it drop below that expected level, and that's what we've seen. So we've now gone to this performance tool that says, well, for that aggregate at that location with that traffic volume, how is it actually performing? And then using that information to then help people target where they get their aggregates from. But it is incredibly variable, as I'm sure people are aware. It's not like going down to the hardware shop and buying a particular product. The material coming out of the ground is hugely variable.
So I think that's going to wrap up the Q&A for today. Thanks for everyone who stuck around for a few minutes to answer, and thanks, Mark, for tailoring to the time frame. It's been a real pleasure talking with you today. You guys have been absolute leaders in creating a sustained and sustainable approach to reducing crashes by managing pavement friction. And what I hope is that by understanding the key components of your program and how they fit together, it's helped the folks who are listening identify what's relevant or relatable to them. So thanks for sharing your perspectives and experience. So when everyone signs off today, we will follow up with the recording of this webinar and Mark's presentation. If you've indicated that you would like additional information from Mark, we will also follow up appropriately and put everyone in touch. We are working towards our next The Road Ahead webinar, which will take place in October, and we'll be out with more details soon. But Mark, thanks again for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Roland, thanks for today to you and WDM, and also for the American Traffic Safety Service Association have been supportive of this. Hopefully there's been useful insights for people today, and I'm really welcome anyone who wants more information. Please get in contact with yourselves or us. We're very happy to share. And we're not saying that we know everything. We've learned a lot, and we're just very happy to share that. Really encourage everybody to stay connected, because we need to all work together with this across the world. Encourage you to look at attendance at the 2023 Safer Roads Conference. And I just want to leave you with a thought that we're all lifesavers. If we can make a difference and save a life, then we should consider ourselves lifesavers. It's not like someone that goes down to the beach and is a lifesaver, they know who they're saving. Unfortunately, we don't know who we're saving, but by investing and doing improving our road surface friction, we are all lifesavers, and that's what the mission is all about. So thank you for your time today, and I hope it's been useful for your audience.
Thank you, and thanks as well to our attendees for joining. I hope everyone has a great rest of the day, and I'm looking forward to the next time. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Thanks.